Hello everyone, this is Victor, your host at Study Lab. Welcome to part 7 of our series on Bash scripting basics, where we'll be discussing expansion. So what you'll learn today is brace expansion and sequence expressions, parameter expansion and indirection, tilde expansion, and finally globbing. So let's get going. First, let's discuss sequence expressions. And let's start by doing a simple example here. Let's echo out curly brace 1.15. So what this does is it dynamically creates a sequence for us from 1 and ending with 15, and it will basically give us all the numbers in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on until 15. You can add a third member in here, so ... and you can include an increment or step value. If we use 3 for instance, there will be a difference of 3 between each two numbers in our list, like this. So now we have 1, 4, 7, 10 and 13. You can also use this with characters, so from A to Z, let's say. This will output the whole alphabet. Or from A to Z, and you can include a step as well. So you can skip 2 letters at a time, and this will be your output. Of course, you can also use negative increments, so from Z to A, you can show this in reverse from Z down to A, and the same with numbers, of course, from 10 to 1. So this is pretty useful, and it allows us to create for loops easier. If you remember, we discussed for loops in a previous video, which I'm now referencing on the top right of this video. So click that if you want to have a look. And let's open up a text file and do a simple script here using brace expansion and sequence expressions. So we begin with our usual shebang line, then bash, and let's say we want to loop through some numbers here. So we start with 10 and we want to end in 100. So for noon and now we give it a list, start out with 10 up to 100, and we want to skip 10 numbers at a time. Then do and just echo out our number, and done. Save chmod +x to make this executable, and execute. So here we have our numbers from 0 to 100 using a very nice and simple for loop. If you want to assign the list to a variable first, you would do list equals, and this is a little different, but you need to use the $parenthesis syntax to execute this in a subshell. And this is really just another type of expansion, the subshell expansion. And here you would echo the list, so from 10 to 100, using 10 as your increment. So what this does is it executes this in a subshell and returns the value. So this value gets assigned to our variable called list. And then you would simply replace this here. So for num and in a list, do echo num. Save and clear and execute. And as you see, it does the same. So this is just a simple way to dynamically create sequential lists. And it can be pretty useful depending on what you want to do in your scripts. So that's sequence expression. Another form of brace expansion is when you work with variables. And for instance, one very useful thing to remember is when you have a script and you have more than 9 parameters passed on to this script, you will not be able to access your 10th parameter let's just clear out all the script. So you will not be able to access your 10th parameter using $10 like this, like you would expect to. Remember our previous lesson on positional parameters. So what you will need to do here is to use brace expansion and include this in braces like so. The dollar positional parameters only work from $0 to $9. Once you get to a 2-digit position, you need to include that. You need to enclose that number in curly braces. So let me demonstrate this. Let's just echo the 10th parameter passed on to this script. But before we do that, let's just try to echo this. Okay? And let's save this. So we're executing testing and P1, P2, P3. We need to add at least 10 parameters here to test this. P6, P7, P8, P9, and finally P10. So yeah, just to clarify things here, because we have the same output, but we have the same output due to coincidence here. So let's name this P first, the first parameter, and enter. And now the funniest thing happens. You see that this second line is correctly P10, which is our 10th parameter, but the first line looks funny, right? It's P first and then you have a 0. And if we cat our script here, you can see that our first line is echo $10. What this really does is it echoes out $1, which is our first parameter, P first, followed by a 0, instead of echoing out our 10th parameter. but the second line works because we've included our position in curly braces. So this type of expansion is very useful when you're using variables inside a longer string like here, and it helps make things less ambiguous. Okay, so let's say you just have a simple variable here called var, which equals test value, but you have another variable called var n, which equals another value, and you want to echo var, then okay, let's add a space here, and you want to echo the value of var followed by the word number, just something random. Okay, and let's remove this line. So this will be very ambiguous because Bash will not know for sure if you want to echo var and then the word number, or maybe you want to echo this variable here, var n, and then the word umber. So let's save this, clear, and execute. Let's execute. And it will turn out an empty string in this case, because what actually happens is it tries to print out a variable called var number, and it doesn't find it, obviously, because it's not defined. So you could clarify things for Bash by using curly braces. For instance, if I want to echo out var and then the word number, I can do this. Save and execute, and as you can see, it echoes out var, which was test value, and then our word number. Or if I want the value var n to be echoed and then the word umber, I can do this. I enclose var n under curly braces, and then Bash evaluates this as a variable. So if I execute this, it says another value, which was the value of var n, followed by the word umber. Okay, so I think we're done with the basics of brace expansion in Bash. Our next topic is parameter expansion and indirection. Actually, parameter expansion we've already discussed when we mentioned this syntax. So what about indirection? Well, let's open up our script, and let's say we have the value var n here, and if we echo out var and execute, obviously it will echo var n, right? But what if we want to echo out the value of the variable called var n? So we want to use the value of var as a variable. Okay? we don't want to print out var n. We want to use this value as a variable name and echo its value instead. We need to use indirection for this. And to do that, you simply add a bang character or exclamation mark as a prefix to the initial variable, right? If we save this and execute the script again, instead of printing out var n, which is the value of var, it will echo another value, which is the value of the var n variable referenced by var. So I hope that makes sense. You will sometimes need to use this. Okay. What else? We can discuss tilde expansion. You see that we have tilde here in our prompt, and tilde usually refers to your home directory. So if we echo tilde, you can see that it echoes out my home directory here. But there's also some other interesting uses. Unfortunately, I don't have other users on this computer, but let's try a root and see if that works. Yeah. So if you use tilde and then a login name, it will output this particular user's home directory, right? Instead of the current user's home directory. So if you have another user called John and you use tilde John, it will basically output home John, that user's home directory. What else? Let's say we cd into a directory here and clear, and if we echo tilde plus, it will echo out the current directory. So it's the same thing as echoing pwd. And tilde minus goes one directory backwards from the current directory. If I had a different directory here, let's create it. mkdir test dir and cd into it, and then echo tilde minus. You see that it echoes the previous directory. Tilde plus will again echo the current directory. And the same here. So tilde plus always echoes out the current directory. You can also use numbers here, but this will only work if you have some directories pushed onto your stack. What does that mean? So let's cd into our test here, and we have an interesting command called pushd. With pushd, and you have to pass in the name of a directory to it, and I'm gonna just pass in dot, which is the current directory. And what pushd does is it pushes that directory onto a stack, so you can come back to it later. So if we push the current directory and then cd back, and let's say we push the this directory as well, it will output the current the directories that are currently pushed to the stack, which are these: downloads, testdir, and we have downloads twice here. So if we cd back into our home directory, okay, so first if we print out, if we execute the dirs command, it will show us the 3 directories in our stack. And basically, if we echo out tilde plus or tilde plus 0, that refers to the first directory on our stack. If we do tilde plus 1, it's the second directory, downloads, and tilde plus 2, it's the third directory. Tilde plus 3 will not resolve to anything since we don't have another directory on the stack, so it will just resolve onto a string, right? Or you can go the other direction, so tilde minus 1 outputs downloads, tilde minus 2 outputs the home directory, the tilde basically, and tilde minus 0 outputs the first, the first directory on the stack beginning from the right side. Okay, so this can be useful sometimes as well. Bash will also evaluate this at the beginning of variable assignments. So if you use var tilde plus 1 and then echo var, this will correctly echo the second directory in the stack, in the directory stack. But if you quote this, it will simply save it as a string. Okay, so let's see what else here. We discussed brace expansion, sequence expressions, parameter expansion and indirection, and tilde expansion. And finally, let's take a look at globbing. And I think we briefly touched upon this in our first couple of videos in the series. But basically, globbing is a way of using patterns to match files on your computer. So let's ls here. We have some files and directories, and we can use globbing to echo all our files and directories. If we simply use an asterisk, a wildcard character, you can see that this will basically generate a list of all the files and directories in the current directory. And obviously you can assign this to a variable. So var equals, and use the subshell expansion and echo asterisk, and now echo var, and you have the same list of files and folders in a variable. So you can also use question marks. So if you use, let's say you want to target the downloads directory, do loads, and basically that's the question mark matches any character, right? It matches any single character. So if we echo this, it correctly matches our downloads directory. You can also use character classes. So between square brackets, you can add a list of allowed characters or single characters or multiple characters in here. So let's say we allow O or XY or W. And this also matches with downloads because we have O here. So let's just make this prettier and get rid of the question marks here. So this will basically look for downloads or for down L XY ABS or for down L W ABS, and it will match downloads because that's the only directory that we have from all of these three. And you can use the sequence as well, so from E to Q, or from N to Q. Let's use from N to Q. And because O is between N and Q, this will correctly match. If we use E to Q, it won't match, and it will instead resolve all this to a string. Okay, what else? We can also negate a character class. So we want to match any character that is not between E and Q. And this will correctly match our downloads directory. Okay, so I think that's it for today. It's plenty of information. Play around with these brace expansions and tilde expansions and globbing features. I'm hoping you found all of this useful. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, have fun and keep studying.